In this mini lecture, we will be covering how to review a peer's work in class and why we find it valuable to do a peer review as part of your revising process. Each of you have now turned in the first draft of your literature review, and now you will be revising it 2 more times. So first, you will be revising it based on feedback from a peer, and then the second time you revise will be after you have gotten feedback from us as instructors. And so again, I mentioned this in class, but I also want to revisit the idea of revising and the process of rewriting drafts. So great writing happens during rewriting and revising. There's always more work that can be done once you've gotten your initial thoughts on paper. And this is what we're going to be undertaking for the rest of the semester. The goal of the first draft was to begin to be organized, to flesh out a well-organized outline. And the purpose of critiques and peer review is to practice a constructive critical eye on your writing. And this is something that every writer has to learn and get better and better at, is to, get your thoughts down and then go back and have a critical eye on your own writing and say, what could I do better? What's working well? What's valuable? What could be improved? Those two practices are so valuable, and it is really hard to do on your own writing. But by practicing helping a peer, you can begin to build those skills that you eventually can use in your own writing as well. And so I really want to stress that peer review benefits both partners. The reviewer gains another example of how to organize a review. How did someone else tackle this project? And how does that help you think about your own project? You get practice at reading for the purpose of improvement, and it helps for editing one's own work. The recipient gets an objective perspective from an audience you are writing for. As I mentioned in class, you're writing something that your peers will be able to understand, and you'll also get advice for improving your manuscript. And so what do you look for, and how do you comment on a peer's writing? I know this can be an intimidating thing. Like, how do you critique? How do you point out what could be improved in this draft? And we have a nicely outlined document to help you go through this. So first, start with the introduction. Does it make sense? Can you identify the problem or the topic being addressed? Can you identify the thesis statement, or in other words, the statement of the goal of the review? We've mentioned this many times, that at the end of your introduction, you should have some statement of, in this review, I will do X, Y, Z. So can you find that in your partner's draft? And if not, make a note of where it could go, or make a note that you're not seeing it very clearly. And then in the rest of the review, again, what are the strengths? What are areas for improvement? Mark areas that are confusing to you. And so you'll go through and look both for the good things as well as the things that could be improved. And remember that, it's so valuable to point out to your partner what's working, because that's really valuable. And the positive feedback can help, especially if you have a partner that is struggling with this review. It's always good to know what you're doing that can work. On the other hand, you are doing such a service to your partner by pointing out things that they can improve. You're really helping them with their grade in the class, and we all appreciate that all of you and your partners are doing this work together. So in general, does everything make sense? Are the interpretations, the conclusions, and the descriptions making sense to you? Do the interpretations follow from the descriptions of the data and results of the papers that the person is reviewing? Do the conclusions also come from the statements and summaries? Do the conclusions seem backed up by evidence and by logic? Are the descriptions clear to read? And then from a research point of view, is it comprehensive? Did the person have well-described methods that they have followed up on and gone through in a systematic, thorough way? Is the review well-researched? Did the writer attempt to summarize and synthesize the articles well? Did the conclusions follow from the information provided? Are the opinions backed up by evidence? And then lastly, go back to the peer review instructions. Check that you went through all the steps. And two big things that we want you to do are, did you write out 2 places where the draft is especially strong? And did you write out 3 or 4 statements that are concrete about how your partner can improve their draft? And I want to point out where in Canvas you can find this peer review instructions. And so you can see where the Dropbox is for your first full draft for peer review. And then right below that is the peer review, and you'll see the peer review instructions, and you'll also see this video underneath that peer review heading once I've uploaded it. But of course I didn't have it uploaded at the time I took the screenshot to show you where the instructions were. And then I've mentioned this, but I want to say this one more time. Praise makes you feel good, critique makes you better. And so we really need both, and both in an honest way and earnest, authentic way. I really want to stress again that in both sides of this partnership, you both get to practice listening and deep listening. What is this person trying to tell me to help me? From the reviewer's point of view, is this person trying to articulate what their struggle was or what they were trying to say with a confusing part? Can I listen deeply and help them? And then our speaking skills as well. Are we articulating ourselves? Are we, trying to help our partner in a sincere way? And knowing that we are kind of doing this good hard work together in a big writing project that some of us haven't ever done before. And so, again, we really appreciate that everyone is doing this work together. So after the peer review, what if I don't agree, and how do I make the edits? So we are expecting that with your second draft, that the instructors will provide you feedback on, that you will provide the reviewer's comments, your written response to comments, and how you chose to address them with your next draft. So it's really important to provide those reviewer comments, because this is how we are going to give everyone their 10 points for doing the review. So recall that your first draft is worth 20 points, and then the peer review is worth 10 points. And so this is where that peer review points get assigned. And with that, again, there will be a short quiz, and just let us know, of course, if you have any questions as you are preparing your peer review.